welcome back to our work session from our business meeting. We kind of jumping around a little bit. Dan, do you have anything you need to follow through on? You've got everything on your report?
No, that we discussed earlier, no.
Okay.
We'll go over, and as we said before, if anybody's missing their newsletter, we'll follow up with full transcript and see, because it's all done through the postal service. It's all handled by them, so.
Before we move to Ann, just while things are fresh in our mind, let's quickly review the comments from the council business meeting. Ellie Cran regarding, he sent an email about this as well. With respect to Fort Union, where we have the stenciling that encourages biking on the main road with even at 40 miles per hour. Is that a question? Is that a?
We can, Matt and I discussed this earlier, we can talk about it if you'd like to. I mean, just the rationale behind it. He referenced the city's master plan, and the master plan does show a Category 2 bike lane, which is a striped lane. The reality is the corridor right now is not quite wide enough to accommodate dedicated lanes plus the shoulder outside that on both sides. So as part of this restriping, the city felt it was a good temporary step to paint just bike markings, just to make cars aware that, hey, cyclists may use this road. The standards he sent actually reference, I don't know what acronym it is, but it's some engineering standards.
Yeah.
And they're recommendations when the right-of-way space permits such dimensions to be used. And in this case, we don't quite have the dimensions yet without acquiring a little bit additional right-of-way there. So the master plan is still being followed in the sense that, yeah, moving into the future, we'd like to see that additional right-of-way. We'd like to see dedicated bike lanes along Fort Union. We're not there yet. We had a restriping job, felt it was a good opportunity to come in and just put the bike symbols down just to make vehicles aware that there may be cyclists on this road. Be aware. They mean share the road. Share others are.
So as far as liability or speed limit and having those there from Brad's perspective and from best practices.
If you have carte blanche to design a road and put bike lanes in, yeah, we put a Category 2 in. But as far as liability, I don't know. But even within the standards, I think this is an acceptable practice as a temporary solution, understanding that we're working towards something in the future that requires just a little bit more, a more intense project.
We have the same on Holland Drive, and we have in other places in the city as well, but not at that speed. So, but there's going to be bikes there, so I just notify them.
Yeah, and if we want to be strict about following standards, then the solution right now would be to take the paint off the road. Bike lane cyclists are still legally supposed to use the road when they're riding. The little paint symbols just mean to vehicles, hey, watch out, there could be bikes here. It's more of an awareness thing. But if it's strongly felt that we don't want to incur liability or something like that, then yeah, we could remove this.
Well, no, unless there's a standard that we're breaking, to me, as more of a layperson or a bike, I've ridden that route many times on my bike, and I'm going to ride it. Those symbols are there or not.
Yeah.
But, the question.
What's our long-term fix? That we need to move the curb.
Long term, yeah, you need to widen it out a little bit to be able to paint, I don't know if it's 4 or 5 foot striped bike lanes plus the required shoulder, and then into curb gutter, you know, that's type of improvement from there.
It would require the acquisition of additional property.
Or a reconfiguration of the sidewalk / park strip. We need a little bit more width in the asphalt there.
To me, I think this is one of the many agendas on the Parks, Trails, Open Space Committee is active transportation, and looking at even those funding sources we saw today from the county, primary areas where we can mitigate some of those deficiencies, and hopefully there's some expertise there.
Sure.
Looking at that and bringing back recommendations and moving forward and duly noting concerns.
Yeah, and hopefully the intent with the bike plan is if and as the corridor, properties along the corridor go through a level of substantial redevelopment, that we're able to we have that master plan down, if we don't have the capacity or the right configuration, that we can make that adjustment with these new development applications so that, you know, over time that starts to widen out. Obviously, we could fund a capital project to go in and reconfigure the park strip and sidewalk and get it in sooner than that. That's obviously a capital expense that would be considered.
Well, I feel strongly that we should follow Salt Lake City's lead and get to an aggressive bicycle-friendly status.
As far as, is it the ordinance that was referred to, the
Yeah.
restricting parking? So we can certainly look at that. Concern is comparing a metropolitan area's ordinance to a suburban. So what I'd like to do, if we want to tug on that thread a little, is explore some other bicycle-friendly suburban community solutions for parking and bike lanes. Because I know if a restrictive ordinance like that were in place on Bengal, I don't think that bike lane on Bengal would exist at all. Just
But why is that?
because cars do park there, and if we prohibited parking, that would create issues for the soccer games for
For
right
what?
now, for school parking. And I know that this was a
You're just saying
contentious
that
topic.
your opinion is the conflict between the users would,
I
in
think
in
there's
that
a-
road, go to the,
I guess
I think there's a conflict there, and I think maybe
The
I'm,
road is so wide. I guess as somebody who bikes to grad school every day in snow and rain in Sugar House, which maybe is a city, and somebody who rides her son to school on his bicycle, I don't know why we're not trying to create a corridor with a high school, a middle school, and an elementary school, and create a bike lane.
yeah, by no means am I saying I don't want to explore
And keeping
this.
the cars off. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, because to me, I see, being progressive is that encouragement. I mean, the fact that we have all these cars from the high school littered all over the place, and there's not been any sort of movement towards reducing the cars. We just increase them and find more spots for them. I don't know. I don't feel like we're moving forward. I think we're being left behind.
So certainly, that's not what I was trying to say is justify a reason why we don't want to do this. I can certainly explore and I can go as far as drafting an ordinance if the council requests it. I was just saying, I don't want to base it solely on Salt Lake City because there are some differences in the makeup of the city. I would just expand our research and broaden the scope of that.
Honestly, I'll offer up a different perspective on that. An expectation of safety or restriction that's checkerboarded is dangerous. I mean, honestly, I would expect that the solution to that would be better handled at the state level, where either all bike lanes are restricted to bikes only, and there's no parking, there's no moving in, there's no doing nothing, or there's not. So the people that are driving through our city, which we have a very large number who do, I mean, that would just shock me if all of a sudden I found out I wouldn't know which line did I cross, and is this where I can drive in a bike lane, or that I can't. I mean, the best answer is bike lanes that are, I mean, what Salt Lake did do, what Mayor Becker did do, we actually created some things that were physically separated, absolutely clear, this is 100% totally for bikes or whatever, and then the cars are elsewhere. But where we have been built out and we have a lot of shared facilities, that makes me nervous to be one spot.
You don't think that Bengal is an obvious east-west corridor for a dedicated bike lane versus Fort Union?
Well, are you talking dedicated like with the paint on the asphalt the way that it is, or something?
Yeah, no cars parking within the bike lane along Bengal Boulevard. I mean, Bengal Boulevard to me is like a biker's heaven. I mean, why any cars would park along Bengal Boulevard in the bike lane is, I mean, that to me is like an easy give, east-west. We're not talking about Fort Union, we're just talking about nice
I think there is
thoroughfare.
probably space. I guess the issue is where you come is when someone parks and opens the door, and that, if there's room for that across the bike lane.
I
But
don't-
see, to me conceptually, what you said makes great sense.
Yeah, I mean, I
I
agree
think,
with that.
how do you argue conceptually? Now, the reality is what process we go to, and I hate to use the word process again, I apologize to you personally right now. But what process do you go to get that consensus to make it happen? Do you do it up right here? Do you want the Park Trails Open Space Committee to look at the whole city, or do you want to piecemeal bits and pieces? Do you want to have an overall plan? I mean, but I agree with you. Yeah, I think it would be wonderful to have connectivity between all of our schools. I agree. Just, you know, do you, is this something that this new committee should look at? Or do you want to move that up the ladder right now and say, we look at it?
I just think the list is getting really long
Yeah,
for a
it
committee
is.
that meets once a month, and we haven't even had a meeting yet, and it's, you know, we're here in September, so I just, I worry about that. But, I mean, if we want to consider a subcommittee within the Parks and Trails and Open Space for
Absolutely.
bike, we could do that, but again, that's, I mean, gonna fall on, more on you than on me, unfortunately, or both of us.
Both,
But
yeah.
probably you more than me, because you have to manage and organize, so.
Well, I think we want to have public input, we want to have, I mean, you want to have enough information that we know exactly what we're doing and we do it right the first time, and that it makes perfect sense to me. You look at, and we have a bike master plan already.
Yeah.
It needs to be brought out, and how does this fit into that? You know, but conceptually, it makes perfect sense to me.
Are we okay to send Mike Johnson away with a to-do list of checking out a couple municipalities that look like us, that are more aggressive with their bike plan, and report back?
I would, me personally, rather than add more on to Mike, I'd really like our Parks, Trails, Open Space Committee to look at active transportation as an issue. If they want to have a subcommittee, want to do it as fast as they can, if they want to have extra meetings, so that it's well vetted and do it, and Mike would be involved in that. I mean, unless the rest of council says, yeah, Mike, that's one of your main priorities, now go get it, go do it. Yeah.
I'll word this right. It's pretty easy to compile research and start there, and then perhaps we could compile some ordinances and just talk about them for a little while in a work session, and then if we want to draft an ordinance from there, involve the committee at that point in pulling together an actual ordinance and building consensus and doing the public outreach. But it's not a huge time commitment for me and members of my department to just find ordinances, do some research in-state, out-of-state, find cities that are similar, find cities that might be really different but have good ordinances, and
then from there, take it to the.
and then maybe we find, summarize a list of kind of what we like about each of them, what we don't, take that to the committee and let them,
Tweak it.
add their expertise, tweak it, and go that way. That way we can start moving now, and then let them pick up as soon as they're, have their feet under them.
I guess my concern with that particular approach is it tends to be a little, I'd rather have the committee get together, set up what their priorities are and how you work on that.
Sure.
I mean, 10 minutes or something is great, because if we just start picking off things constantly, we end up just kind of scrambling around, and I feel like we've done that a little bit, where we get just kind of out in the weeds rather than actually having a focus. And
But-
that's my opinion on
Yeah,
it.
but like Christine says too, our list is getting so long and couldn't even put off, it'd be nice to start producing something. And if you could do some research simultaneously as you get ready to call your first meeting and let people know this is a priority, see what level of interest there is, and there may be some people there that, but conceptually, for me personally, I'm excited to move along that direction. I think when it comes to active transportation and bikes, there's not going to be less interest, there's going to be more interest and more demand.
So at this point, we'll just find some ordinances. We'll start there, and then we can bring this up in our first meeting as something to consider and work on, and see how the committee wants to proceed from there.
Have you communicated with that committee of how soon they'll be meeting?
No, I'm going to send out a poll for availability just for a first meeting, and we'll get, as soon as we can get everyone coordinated at a time, or most of the committee, then we'll set a meeting calendar moving forward. A lot of that first meeting, I think, will be logistical, getting people elected and getting that whole thing set up.
Yeah, and how long then to put stuff together and move it.
Yeah.
Further comments?
Is that, so we'll just have research ready to go.
I think that's a great segue into Nancy's comment about things going by the wayside. How we come up with a system to not lose track of things. Am I jumping out of order, sorry?
No, I'm going through it. I'll come into that one in a minute.
I think there were a few people who had the same theme, just in a little different terms. And it made me think of, we started at our retreat with some organizational ideas to keep track of our priorities, and we kind of left that behind as we moved through the budget and got kind of mired in the budget instead. But I think really to keep track of our priorities in a better way so that they're visible to all of us is really an important topic. And important for those people who come to us with good ideas and then don't see what happens, or nothing happens sometimes. So I think it's something we can do a lot better on.
I think we've recognized going through the budget process and with the hiring frenzy that we're going through, that we need those players here as soon as possible to be educated on whatever steps we're going to take to track those things that we're doing.
Yeah. There are a host of tools that are very useful in this idea. And to some extent, it's going to be about us picking a set of tools and working with those, I think.
Unless the council tells me differently, to me that's one of the highest priorities as soon as our new city manager is selected, because those priorities then become that person's priorities, and needs to be involved in that, not to hold things up. We can still move, like Mike will move on this and the committee will move, but that's something that will happen immediately with that new staff. Okay, I'm going to move forward. Couple of questions on sustainability and air quality from Jennifer Shaw and Chester. Do you know who we are on that person that we contracted with?
I'm sorry, say that again.
She's presenting on September 23rd.
Okay.
And we have staff send out invitations
Mm-hmm.
to cities that we might potentially partner with, which include Holiday, Mill Creek, Alta, Sandy,
Okay.
and also the rec center.
Okay.
To come to our work
To
session.
come to at least, yeah.
Well, it's not a work session, it's her presentation.
5 o'clock, yeah.
She's presenting to us?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Tuesday, 25th, 23rd. I can put that in the email.
Those, some of these people might struggle to be there at that same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we all meet on Tuesday nights? I think Ellis meets during the day, I don't know about the other cities.
I don't know either, but I think.
Sandy meets on Tuesdays and Holiday Wednesday, I believe. No,
And they don't- and they
was
don't meet
Monday
on
moved to Tuesday, I think they back went to Monday, I don't know currently.
Maybe that's what the code says.
Huh?
Probably don't know. Do you have questions?
One.
Okay, well, that, we've got some things moving there. Okay, regarding Fort Union above, or east of 2700 East, we've talked previously about looking at that land use designation. And Lynn Kraus brought that up.
Mm-hmm.
So help me understand where we are, consideration of that. Is it really waiting to do the whole?
Well, she asked where we are in the process, and I wasn't aware there was a process going.
Well, it probably isn't that, I'm using that word too much.
So- I just responded saying we're now seeking funds to retool the entire general plan, which is going to include an analysis of the land use element, and she was disappointed her timeline is
Yeah.
shorter than that. Certainly, we can look at it.
Well, when
on
we
the
looked at
screen.
that, remember that daycare that we talked about?
Yeah.
There was only, I think there was a general consensus that we needed to relook at Fort Union from 2700.
Oh. There was a consensus, there's no question there was a consensus, that's what we need to do. The last change we had. In fact, that we did change the zone, but with conditions or with
Right.
restrictions or whatever it was.
We're talking about
And
the
then-
land use map.
Yeah, the land use map change. And we can certainly go do that, but we had a discussion, it's been months ago, that we want to get forward with that, but we think that there's other places in the city that need to be looked at, and we as staff thought it would just be more appropriate to spend time and effort doing the entire general plan update, even though it's really not the entire general plan, because we're assuming a lot of some of the specialty stuff we've done, the bikes and master plan. I hate bringing bikes again, we'll probably talk about that a little. But it had all been, would just be an annex, continue to be an annex to that. But, and so we were, as staff, thought our direction was to go as quickly as we could, try to find some funding to have the entire general plan update and just roll that into it. If you want us to do differently, certainly can do that.
I think we ought to, this is a small item.
That's what I thought.
It's not a, it's,
It is small, but it's a 4-month public process. To go through hearings and
Yeah.
staff
It's
reports
quick.
and
I mean,
noticing and.
West Highland Drive was 3 or 4 years.
Certainly we can do it, and it's not a
I didn't
complex
think that
project,
through.
but it's not an overnight.
It's not necessarily a slam dunk.
Yeah, but, you could do some other things. I mean, no, you could, if you planned on doing that and you decided that you didn't want any kind of that kind of development on Fort Union in that part, you could also do some kind of moratorium at the same time you're doing a general plan or something like that. But it is, that's our point was, it's a 4-month process.
that makes
I did convey when we exchanged emails that understanding a whole general plan update is a longer process. The council can impose a moratorium or a hold on land use in a certain area while it's being looked at. And that's an ability that you have regardless of if we're in this process or not. If you feel like things are changing, it's something the council can.
Well, the council can correct me, but I think there was pretty clear among us that there was support of looking at that area as soon as possible, and maybe we could recommend if it's a moratorium, or there's some action because of the residential comments we took as well, because it's one of the few areas where you've got no commercial really other than at the top.
You cannot put a moratorium in place that's gonna last the entire time of doing a general plan update, the entire general plan update. That's a year or 2, year and a half process. We cannot put a moratorium in place probably for longer than 6 months.
6 months.
And that's state code, and so,
maybe I say something else.
so just tell us what you want to do and.
Well, but
and,
also, when we talk about a
they'll do
general
it.
plan update, we're not gonna, wasn't there some discussion that we're gonna take just pieces that we feel need it rather than redo the whole thing? So it's not.
This is a comprehensive update because it hasn't been updated since '05. There may be pieces of it that still hold true, and you're not gonna, delete the whole thing and
But you
rewrite
will
it from the ground
you will
up.
review even those portions that you will not change.
Yeah.
Quick question.
Mhm.
Was a 4-month process followed the first time they made the land use change?
Who is,
With previous
We
council?
made
so the,
dozens of changes to the land use map and the general
Did you go
plan.
through a 4-month process?
It was
or
longer
they all go through planning commission hearing, usually multiple hearings for land use changes, especially city initiated changes. They spend, roughly that amount of
Doing
time.
an entire
So we
general
always-
plan, every time we have a general plan update, and we changed it several times. It goes through the 3 or 4 month process. To have it, to do the entire thing is much longer than a 4-month process.
Yeah, there's public outreach, open houses,
We
drafting.
just
That's
do
a
it.
master plan study.
So Mike, as a professional, what's your recommendation dealing with this area then? So
Well,
where are we-
if it's a big concern of the council, we certainly can proceed with a land use amendment back to, I don't even know if I want to say back to, because I think, if I remember correctly, there's been mixed use in this area since the original land use map in '05. But we can proceed with a land use change, understanding that we're going to look at it again if we receive the funding to do a general plan update. And that, again, if it's a concern, would give the peace of mind to the council that.
Well, but if it's not timely, not if it's not efficient, if we're being redundant, duplicate.
Well-
Is there any other interest or that, of any properties on there that are pending that we have?
We don't know, but they can come up overnight. So if there is a concern that we don't want to see a rush of mixed-use development or rezone along there, you know,
The council still has to approve any rezone application.
Well, we would have to, well, you're right.
So-
A rezone would have to,
Nothing's gonna slip past us
Yeah.
here,
no.
but
My recommendation, if you're going to do a complete general plan update, which we want to do, and the concern that I'm hearing from council right now, I think you just go in and I would recommend we suggest a very conservative land use for that area, run it through the process, if it gets adopted, and then we can look at it more comprehensively as part of the general plan update and maybe loosen it some. But that's a good way to solve, if you think it's an immediate problem, to solve that immediate being 3 or 4 month problem. That immediate need.
If I could add, another way that you can let the public know that you're still allowing the public process to follow through is in the adoption of that, state that it's a temporary, intended to be temporary or something as the general plan is being done, so that no one can later say, well, why did you swing from here to there? And then if it is decided to swing back, you just state that in your motion for approval of the ordinance, and that way you're letting the public know that it's just a placeholder for that period of time.
Is that?
We can have this to planning commission in October, if this is the direction. We can start the public process.
Well, District 4, it's your area, what do you think?
Is it the whole?
part of, no, part of it's me,
Yeah.
part of it's
Well,
actually, kind of like two.
it's on the border of,
Yeah.
It's all right
Between
there.
2 and 3, yeah. I go up to 20 or 25, yeah.
They said all three of them.
Mike, you just did it.
I'd just like to annex a portion of that to District 1, so
Yeah, I mean,
that not the only one left
Linda's
out.
from your district, though, yeah.
I mean, yes, I would like to get it done. Honestly, right now, if a zone change application came in there, I would be extremely hesitant. I would encourage you, if someone like that comes and says, you know, this is being looked at very intensely, you can go ahead and apply, but I, for one, would be very leery of.
Of a zone change to mixed use?
Yeah, of a favorable vote towards a zone change on that area when I knew we were gonna be handling it.
Well,
Probably
it
in the next few months.
sounds then like the thing to do is to proceed with a land use amendment right now.
One advantage
City
of doing it separately and now, and I would probably say do it and get whatever, however we want it to be.
Mhm.
One advantage of doing it that way is the immediate neighborhood gets more focused notice, rather than the general plan comprehensive where it's kind of citywide and it's, that intensity is diluted. That would be one reason to go ahead and focus on it now.
Is that what you propose?
I'm honestly fine either way.
I'm in favor, Mike.
I hear 2 yeses.
I do 3.
Okay.
Okay. All right,
And I apologize if there was misunderstanding or miscommunication. We'll get this going.
no, there's. You'll give me these two. We could get it clarified now. Jen commented on shared parking, on the corporate center. We've had communication, I think EIS has even looked at that, I think.
Yeah, we've looked at that. We approached them about 3 years ago when we were working on, we had a committee together up there on public transportation. Remember that committee? We talked about that, and there was no interest in them just having people there on weekends, but I hope that it's something we revisit with the Boulevard Master Plan.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think to go and do that right now would be,
Well, it's something that's been talked about numerous meetings I've been in, and so I think we're aware of.
yeah, that's something that I tried to get done years ago.
To Nancy Hardy regarding Q&A, short and long-term goals, like Mike talked to a moment ago about our goals and priorities again. that's something we're gonna focus on as we move forward, so. Okay, Tim Howbeck on Golden Horse Park, I think that was the service area who did that. Okay. Brian, you wanna keep
Let
these?
me
I
ask one
actually,
question.
oh, yeah, give them to me because Paula needs to scan them. I've also did electronically in the Excel spreadsheet.
About putting a little sign here,
The digital board,
flash,
yeah.
the digital board. And I had sent an email, which is a crazy idea to Mike. And Ann is here tonight about how we could get more space on the 7-Eleven board.
Yeah.
I just wonder if there's a way that we can, an interim step that we could do, even pay for it or reach out to the owner, Reagan, whatever. And let's just see if we can just start blasting things on that sign. I don't know that we have to wait for something here.
Oh, I
We have-
agree. I like that idea, and I know I put that on my action list too, to look at the.
All those go
Public
through you,
notice.
correct, Ann?
Huh?
Well,
All the
not-
billboard.
okay.
Public announcements
Public
on
address.
So
public ones
the way
do.
I have it set up with them is, that we do one a month, and I split it, so it's actually 2 announcements a month for free, for, announcements, and that's what I've had set up.
Do you have any idea what they charge?
I have asked them many times and they have not come back, and I will ask them, I will talk to the top person if I need to and find out exactly what it will
That's kinda really
cost.
what-
How long do you wanna leave it, or do you want me to, I will get some estimates
You just
of how much,
Depending upon the issue, yeah.
you know, a week. I usually like,
A week
what they
or 2
like
weeks.
is nothing longer than 2 weeks, is what they ask me. After 2 weeks, it just kinda goes blur.
You probably don't want anything near 2 weeks long, you want,
Yeah, 2 weeks is what I
Less
usually
than
try
a
and
week,
put things.
probably.
So I will reach out and find out the cost on that for you and get back with you on that.
Yeah, 'cause that's really, because the free ones we kind of book out.
And we're
for the
booked
whole
out.
year.
I've got them booked out for the year, and everybody's kind of knows what they're supposed to do. But I'll reach out to see what else they would do for us.
Yeah, see if in a
Yeah.
public service, if PSA, if there's a
A discount.
rate or discount or.
State contract.
Yeah,
That would be interesting to find out on the billboards.
I'll find out. I'll reach out to them
There
tomorrow.
wasn't before when I did one for the state, so.
Okay.
If you go
Was
with,
that back in
the-
the dark ages?
if you go with other kinds of video boards, I'm not sure that just, I think you gotta select a location that's a little well better seen than out front. I mean, when you say that, it's typically, okay, a school has it out front, your school. I know several municipalities that have just taken areas on some of their main streets, you know, and put a sign up. Or most of the time they'd have a park or something like that in the area.
No, yeah,
You know, with lots of.
City Hall makes sense, there's a meeting here tonight, okay, and I see that. But for visibility, the triangle would be a better spot.
Triangle or even Mount View.
50,000 people going up down Highland, or,
Somewhere.
yeah, Mount
Give
View
me
Park.
chills with this sign code implications you're trying to.
I know, I can see you over there by New Lip and seeing what's done.
But the idea-
Hey, didn't we rewrite, I know, that's why I said city property, public
So
facilities.
I do know that, like, with special
Still not.
event permits, we make them do the message boards. They rent those boards. And that's what the city that I lived at, before they started getting some signs out, they just had those messenger boards out. And I loved it. When I drove by, I'd read it, before they got a few of those messages out there.
But
So a temporary fix could be, if you're gonna have an open house, especially in one area, is for us to find out what something like that would cost. Especially if they don't have that big billboard up there.
Well, it's something I think that'll be on our list, because I think we've had a lot of comments about, again, communication and, many city halls and facilities have it right on their property because people are drawn to that facility anyway, but yeah, you're right.
But we use those message boards, those electronic ones for races. The canyon's closed between these hours. Well, we don't use them, but we make, Them.
UDOT uses them.
we make the special event permit people, so like the Big Cottonwood Canyon, they have to get them and put them up, so.
Yeah, but
I
they're not,
could-
they're not the most tasteful looking things.
They're not, but it's something, that's all. It's just something.
But having something sometime in the future permanently announcing, when you go out to the speed skating oval and the high school and that whole service area, they got a beautiful board right out there that the whole community knows if something's going on because they're all connected there. And so like someplace in our community that we could have something central that some activities, but, yeah. But I think the temporary is if, if rain
Amber
or
was
something.
here earlier about asking if they'd let us
Yeah.
use the one across the street till they tear it down. I don't know if they're gonna tear it down or not.
Okay, anything else on the,
Yeah, I did have one question I was gonna ask
We're
Mike.
gonna have a hard time putting one back on.
Um,
They
You
are.
better leave it up.
Told them
So,
go on.
Mike, this is just off the top of your head, so I'm not
Okay.
gonna nail you to the wall if the numbers. are
That's
wrong.
good.
You've worked here enough years. How often does someone come in with an application for either a land use change or building permit or something like that, that you need, that you turn them back, or you turn them saying you need to go back and get this refined or changed, or they just don't end up coming back and going through with it?
Building permits, I would say, almost every permit has corrections after the first time. We send out review letters, and sometimes it takes more
What
than
about
one
things that
cycle.
go to the planning commission?
A lot of times, if someone comes in with a proposal that just blatantly doesn't work, we'll sit down with them and say,
How often is
we can
that?
take you through, this isn't gonna work though.
That's kind of what it is.
I'd say-
1 out of 10, 6 out of 10.
Well,
I
it's a
haven't
hard
done
answer,
it.
because a lot of times people are just kind of poking around for information. It's not extremely often where we get an application where we haven't talked to these people ahead of time and said, hey, here's the process, here's the code, here's the fees, here's everything. We did just get one for a subdivision that came in and had a ton of corrections, and
Even
they're
those that are
gone.
they're curious.
Yeah. So,
My intent, where I'm going with it is there was 2 comments about prioritizing developers over the city. Now,
Yeah,
obviously, the only things people end up hearing about are the ones that get through the process. So
Yeah.
the question was, how often do you have people who come in with questions or whatever that are,
questions every day. Hey, I found this piece of property here, I wanna do this with it, does that work? That happens every day.
Yeah.
That's standard business. Now, people that are serious about getting a zone change or a variance or going through with something like that, I'd say we have issues with maybe 1 in 5, and we recommend as staff, let's not take this forward until we can work through these issues. Sometimes
that's a little higher than.
developers will apply, we'll go through a few reviews, they'll change course, they'll comply with minimum code, and then we'll say, okay, now we can go forward with this. But if we go forward prior to that, obviously that's their decision, but we let them know up front, hey, you don't have a good chance.
And
So
that's
there's a
helpful.
lot of work behind the
That would be
scenes.
my interpretation of, or at least the answer to, you're never prioritizing the city or our code, you're willing, and because I don't feel that we try to help people that want to change things or whatever, but it's not like they're a priority over our existing code in the city the way it is.
No, and I mean, we sit down with owners that want to develop and professional developers and people interested in these things all the time, and we try to guide them through the process and educate any public that's interested about the process as well. But maybe this is just my philosophies. I think some cities maybe just accept any applications and, okay, apply and we'll talk once you apply and you're in the process. We like to try to talk up front and be realistic about the process and what are the hurdles here and what are the challenges. I would say the most common one we turn away are variance applications. People throw out the word variance anytime something that they want to do doesn't meet code and say, well, I'm here to get a variance, and we usually sit down with them
Or
and educate
different
them.
administration, or different, not administration.
That goes
That's
through,
been very common.
Yeah.
I do know that a certain road that was built, that currently is halfway in our city and halfway is not, originally asked for 75 and got 16
yeah,
fairly easily.
yeah, so,
That, we don't do that as much here,
yeah.
which I think is a good move.
The answer, it's a hard answer, but yeah, that conversation
It
happens a
helps.
lot.
good clarification that there's, again, tons of things coming through that don't immediately just get approved, yeah.
I guess one thing that I would also say to add to this very quickly is that I think that it's unfair to try to equate someone coming into a city council meeting and throwing out an idea with and how we respond to that versus how we respond to a land use applicant who comes in, files an application, pays a fee, because under LUDMA we are required to process that application with reasonable diligence, and they have the ability to hold our feet to the fire on that legally.
All right, let's move forward so we're not here till tomorrow. And let's talk about Butler Day's wrap-up.
She just wants to get home for the news. Have a little time.
Okay, so the committee met, a couple of weeks ago, and we did our final wrap-up as the committee. We talked about a few different things. The, good, bad, ugly sort of wrap-up. We try and help each other out. In front of you, you should have your, the wrap-up little booklet. It's kind of funny, each year this is getting smaller and smaller, from when I first started writing it, to the point where it's just kind of, what this does is helps me, begin next year. What we ended up doing this year, what we need to improve on for next year. And I'm just gonna go over it real fast. Parade, 60 entries, a little less than usual. Being it was July 24th, we always have less than usual. Aubrey, 14 volunteers assisted her. We get many compliments on how Aubrey, or how well she's organized it. She's gone to a lot of different parades with me and been in parades, which helps understand logistics of the parade. Later on in my discussion, we're going to talk about changing the parade route and time. So just be aware of that. Field entertainment, face painting, balloon artists, old fashioned games, Turtle Races photo booth, and the sun gazing fall all in this. We really looked at budget this year because just of the budget crunch. We didn't know how things were going to turn out with the budget, so everybody looked at their event and really tackled to see what they could save. Part of me, my job is to go back and look at, okay, we have balloon artist and we have face painting, but we're using a different company for balloon artist. If we use the same company, what are we going to save? I ended up saving us $1,200 by just using the same company. The difference was as they weren't as professional, and you had to go up and the child only gets to pick maybe out of 6 items that they know how to do. Which I talked to a lot of parents and they're like, I actually like that because I wasn't there for 3 hours. I'm trying to decide what it is they want. The old-fashioned games, I brought that back. It was a big hit. Turtle Races was great. The reptile display. So all of this was wonderful. The committee would like to bring back the sun star moon gazing. So that will be brought back next year, and they had some concerns. And we'll figure out their concerns on that. The group that attended. Inflatables. The overall event was a success, and the numbers were sky high. I mean, I think all of you that have been there for many times could say, I couldn't believe all the people there at 12 o'clock on Tuesday. So of course, inflatables brought us in a little bit of money. After 3,000, we get 15% of proceeds. So we give them 3,000, then we get the 15%. But anyway, we ended up making last year a little more this year than we did last. Some of the committee members wants me to reconsider maybe raising that to $8 a wristband instead of $7. So that's something just to see what we would save and what we could bring in on the revenue side. Carnival, we brought in 13,616. Last year was 11,468. Being that we had the bigger crowds, but I also think what helped is I was able to get the tickets down to $20. Our wristband and then the buddy pass. So I think that really helped bring in and bring up the revenue on that. Parking was difficult because a lot of people park at the high school. Nothing we can really do about it till the high school's done and there is parking. But one thing they've just asked is that we put lot is full signs, so maybe it'll stop some of the people driving around the parking lot and just go find something else. So that was a good idea, and that's why it's in here, so I remember next year. Hospitality was great, the barbecue. This is the VIP room that the volunteers go and eat. Everybody liked the barbecue, and the guy wants to come back next year. He kind of did an in-kind. He got to have his booths out there on the field and provided us dinner.
That's why the cost was down.
Yes, that's why we did pay. Yes, yes, that's where that. Free Capri Suns, replace the free watermelon. Some of the community members is, do we really need to provide food when there's so many food booths? What we try and do is if we have one free event, we try and turn it into another if we're taking it away. So we're not just turning into an event that you have to pay for everything. That was the idea, was we have food, let's turn it into a drink or something. But some of them are like, maybe we can find something else. So that's going to be relooked at.
Well, that was one of the original things. It would be nice to be able to have an event where people could come and not feel compelled to.
Have to buy
They can
something.
have fun for the event without having to spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's always been one of the philosophies.
Yeah. So that was where they came up with it, and the Capri Suns were inexpensive compared to what we were paying for the watermelon. So that's where we went with that. But it's something that we'll just relook at and rethink and see if there's something else we can do. The chalk art, we turned that into a showcase. It did not cost us anything because of that. We had about 12 artists, and I think, again, a lot of the feedback I was getting, it's on a holiday. They didn't want to come out on the holiday to do it. Information booth, that booth never stops. If you walk by there, it's constantly hit now with questions. I just need to find more volunteers to help relieve our volunteers that are in there. So that's just something to look at. Electrical, Craig Taft, wonderful job. He's just a great volunteer. He comes in, does what he needs, gets everything at a discount rate for us. I'm not sure how many more years I'll have with him, being that he wants to pursue a mission. So
He has
well,
somebody that usually helps him quite a bit.
Well, it'll turn over to his son, hopefully.
his son's not so sure he wants to do it, but the Public Works helped quite a bit. I had Davis helping with this, and he understood a lot more on how to connect everything. So I'm thinking I may only need his son to go over the electrical stuff, make sure we're
Recode.
well, not even me. No, it's not drawing too much power from one, and then the end doesn't get it. So that's where you have to be careful on the power, how much power one person's and how many spider boxes they're going to need, and that's what he would come in handy. But Craig also wants to make us enough lines that people would have their own line, and that probably wouldn't be an issue. And if we end up moving in that direction, we may not need him. And Public Works can help me set it up and take it down. And then, if anything, we could use Craig's son just to make sure we're running the right power to each booth. So we're getting a lot better in this area. I've been trained quite a bit on the electrical.
But at the end, doesn't the gas mass gathering permit require you have somebody that's certified sign off on it?
No.
Doesn't?
No, I've always just had that kind of in there. No. Car show. Chuck was very pleased with the numbers of the cars that came, and as every year he wants old tractors. Every year he says he's going to bring them. Budget sponsorships were coming in low, and so we brought in the vendors so they could sell, and that brought in our money. That is where we were able to raise the money that we needed to fund this. Stage entertainment was great. We need to look at blocking off parking for entertainment that first night, and working on some parking issues for the entertainment the next night too. So that's an ongoing process of trying to figure out where those entertainers can park, and we can get them to the stage. And it's just all their equipment that they're bringing in. So that's just an ongoing process. So we haven't solved yet, but one day we will. Historic, Sylvia does a great job. That tent's always wonderful. I know they did pretty good on their books. They were excited for what they accomplished there this year. Site and logistics placement on the field is great, except of course the stage, but there's not much we can do with it, getting people there. But this year, no damage to the field. what I ended up doing is paying $2,300 to fix damage that has been in the prior years. So they fixed those ruts, but they've settled. And so we just needed to put more dirt and bring them up. So I think next year will be better. But we spent many hours, Chris and Jim, marking that field. We even have the sprinkler layout. We know which way the sprinklers are going. We know where the sprinklers are. We worked really close with the school district. We worked with the Salt Lake County and the rec center. We had everything out there marked. They marked all the sprinkler heads so we wouldn't hit it. It's the first year we have not hit a sprinkler. And it's just exciting. It's exciting that we didn't have to go in and tear the field up with all the work and the coordination that they offered to us. And they were excited. They didn't have to go in and tear it up and things like that. So I think we made it work. And so moving forward, we'll just keep working on that. Cottonwood Heights Rec Center, they helped us with 5K, pickleball, Capri Suns, cleaning up the field. They are grateful that we have Public Works helping now because it's taking some of the pressure off them. This event, when I started, it went from 4 o'clock to 10 o'clock. It was it. That was done on one day. And it is it's 2 days. Expanded and exploded, and it's just because of that it's just more manpower and more expense to put this together. So having Public Works help is a great help to me and to police used them. They were shorthanded, so they had to pull some in to do some of the things, and then the rec center, we used them in that area. So 5K run and pickleball, we had 167 5K participants, which is about 100 down from last year. A lot of the reasons is it was on July 24th. A lot of people don't have that day off, so it's really hard to go run a race and then go to work 7 o'clock. A lot of the committee members, well, the rec center brought up at the meeting, kind of at the end of the meeting, that hey, maybe we should drop it. We'd like to kind of focus on pickleball. Mike Hansen, it was actually the 5K was his baby. He brought it when he was chair. So I had him answer few of those questions. And you felt if it's run its course, it's run its course too.
No pun intended.
Yeah. Oh.
Constant running, 100-degree temperatures.
Yeah. So it's going to go back. We're going to discuss it with the rest of the committee members because they were at that time, it was a 2-hour meeting and they started slowly leaving us. So there's a possibility we might drop that off. I mentioned that I would love to bring in yoga with yogurt in the morning under the trees. I think would be kind of fun. See if we can get a certain sponsor for that. So I mean, if we take something away, we try and bring something, but we really are trying not to bring anything else to the event that would cost people or enlarge the event. But if we're going to take one, something that is athletic like this, and because you're going to get 5K people that run, but they don't play pickleball. So maybe they'll come and do yogurt if it's fun and we put a little, I don't know, we're not going to bring goats in because I think that's been done. But I don't know, something fun to that. Just one thought. There'll be many before we decide on that. The police, again, they play a huge part of this. We couldn't do it without them. They're concerned.
Yes, we heard the number in the meeting.
Okay. Making sure. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Somebody make that.
Having the police there, and having their presence as heavy as we do throughout the park all night long. We don't have the incidents like some of the other events do, and that's what's great. And it's nice seeing them there and feeling comfortable with them there. And if there is a lost child, that they're right there to help out. If there is somebody injured, they can get them over to the medics. It's just great to have them.
And I know they've been able to divert or stop very quickly when there's been small altercations or
Yeah.
something starts getting going. The response time is right there, and so it gets solved before it gets out of hand.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
We never had a problem.
I mean, it deters people from coming. I mean, you walk and you all of a sudden, if you're there to cause problem, you see that an officer here and then 30, 40 more steps or so, you see another one, you're not gonna wanna do something. And it's a great benefit to have them there and walking around like they do. And then, of course, directing traffic afterwards and everything else they do. And babysitting my stuff all night long, which if they didn't, I would end up losing quite a few porta potties over, so. And flags, they have stopped people from stealing my flags. I still lose flags in the middle of the night. It's just part of what happens. So what they would like us to look at is they would like it to be constant with some consistency with the date. Is we need to, and we did talk about this, but they brought it back on me is that to let their officers know. And we talked about taking it to the fourth weekend, and right now that's what it's looking like. Is we're going back to the fourth weekend, and we're going to keep it at the fourth weekend. I'd like to get in a contract with the carnival, book it out for 3 years, and go with that for the next 3 years. Is what I'd like to start moving towards. If,
I thought it was a council.
we all agreed, we did, but at one point, a couple of months ago, the carnival kind of changed her mind, but now she came back. So
now we're down.
So we're down again, but I would like to get it, if I can get a contract for 3 years, at least we would have a 3-year knowledge. And I know that that's usually, my understanding is 3 years is where we like to be, 2 to 3 years on a contract, but not more than that. Being that we can have a whole new council and stuff. But also when I do contracts, I always have it in there that we can relook at it each year, so that if there's ever a question, we can redefine what's in it, and they can too, if they feel it's not benefiting them. Because of the increase of numbers of attendance, it took 45 minutes to clear the traffic this year. We're past, it's taken 20 to 30. Assistant Chief Bremen has asked me to stop advertising the event.
Well, let me explain why. In previous years, we get cars in and out of there much quicker because you have the neighborhood people who walk to the event, watch the fireworks and they walk away. We had, by advertising it, we had moved it from a city event to a regional event. And I'm not placing values on it. I just need you to make a decision. Is this event something you want to be a citywide regional event that you want to advertise?
No, it's a citywide event.
Or is it a citywide event?
It's a citywide event, but obviously we don't restrict it to those outside our community who come.
Right.
I think really, we don't advertise that much.
I was gonna say,
It's really by word of
no,
mouth.
it's word of mouth, and Big Buddha came, and next year we can say, we're good, please don't come.
Yeah.
I mean, and then, the only other thing is I do that radio station, but it's
pretty minimal, and
It's
they
a-
have a very niche audience too, it's older, not older, but not young people.
and then the only other that I do is just on our website, social media, I do Facebook, but I don't do anything else. So I can stop doing Big Boot. I mean, I can't stop the film crew to come there and do something, but I can say we're not gonna.
But I think philosophically, I think that's council differently. It's our city's event, it's our community's event. But again, like, whenever you have something like this, if you have a family and your family's from outside the community, then you're gonna bring them to the fireworks, because they're excellent fireworks. You're gonna bring them to the carnival stuff, yeah.
We do advertise it as the Valley's best fireworks show, I mean, that's what's in our language, so, I mean, if you don't wanna have the Valley here, it's.
Well, it's a policy question. How big do you want to make it, and do you want to invite, people from all over the valley? Here, a lot of the people there, it was bigger than it ever has been, very successful, and we haven't had it. We're really good at handling issues before they become problems. The big question is, do you want it to remain a city event, or I mean, when you have Salt Lake and other people opting out of fireworks, then, and they hear that we're putting them on, then we're gonna keep growing. Maybe that's a good thing. Again, I'm not placing a value on it,
If you have
just,
a quality event, that's gonna happen. I don't think you wanna market it as for the whole valley to come to Common Heights. You can't handle it logistically. I would just, from my perspective, and being involved from day one, when we did the very first setup and stuff, and it's grown like crazy, but we just do what we've done.
I was gonna say, the only two things I could stop is not do any more interviews with Big Buddha and the radio station. That's the only two things that would reach anybody else.
I don't know, there's a single thing that the interview.
I mean,
Well, the
I have,
website-
and we did that 2 years in a row. He came 2 years in a row. I haven't done anything else I think it's just grown because I'm so good, no. No, I
well, that's
think,
part of it.
I think it's just
It is.
grown that it's word of mouth. And I don't know what to
It's
do.
been a nice, family-friendly, entertaining, fun event.
I mean,
that you
I
go
can
to.
do whatever you guys want. I mean, I don't know how to not have people come. And I understand that it is getting too large. I mean, that's one thing, what we don't do is bring in a major entertainment, because we don't have the police force for that. We don't have the room for, I've actually had one of the residents ask, why don't you bring in something bigger? Why don't you bring in a bigger entertainment?
10,000 people watching that.
I explained that to her. I do have the room. And the city does, and it says, we don't have the police force to secure it, we don't have the room to secure it. And then it's finally understood that, oh, I understand, it's gonna be a small community event no matter what. So we try not to encourage that by those things. So I will, I can do whatever
Just keep
direction.
it the same level you have it right now. Yeah.
I mean, the reality is the food vendors are happy, right? They come in.
Oh, yeah, the food vendors are actually begging to come back already next year.
Carnival for
Yes.
City of Fun, they come in.
And right afterwards, she said she's in, so I think it had something to do with the income she got.
So,
Well,
yeah.
and also, we've learned in programming, to have a successful program, every year we have to tweak something. So I think a little bit of change every year is a good thing. So if you like if you decide not to do the 5K race, or replace, or things like that are what really keep the interest alive.
But not add,
If it's the same thing every year, you'll start losing
Right.
participation.
but we'll try not to add something without taking something, so we're
This
not
year we brought in
increasing.
the telescopes and
Right,
Yeah.
that
right,
was
the telescopes and
The turtle race is a big hit too.
the turtle races was, yeah.
Very
Was.
good.
So, I
Once you
mean,
learn the big one was fastest.
so if there's any advertisement you don't want me to do, just let me know. But I would say that just those two that was outside. I mean, South Jordan does major radio stations and, and
Well, Draper Days and
they do major,
West Fest, those
yeah.
things are.
They do major
But
things.
also, especially West Fest, they have some issues you don't wanna have.
No. UFA does a great job. He didn't make it to my wrap-up meeting, so I don't know if they had any major